All right, Kenman here, and today we have die project number 59. Say what? This is the Kansept Warrior. This is my second Kansept Warrior. I have a full lefty titanium version. I had to pick up this one because it's such a cool knife, and it was perfect for a die project. Plus, I think we're going to be able to get away with something on this one that we haven't gotten away with before on any other die project. Take a look, little last looks. It'll never look like this again. Do you see what I am getting at? I might not have to take this whole knife apart. I could just leave that going and just remove these pieces, do the die, put it back together without even a full disassembly. Is that going to work, Kenman? I don't know. Let's find out together. Okay, there it is, Kansept Warrior. This is a budget version. Really cool knife. I could set the table just to kind of stick with the old school ways. Voila, boom. I'm going to get rid of all of this. We're going to go straight in. Actually, we'll just close this up. And these scales, we're going to see, I may not have to fully take this apart. Oop, up. I'll be able to get in there. That screw I can't get to, but once I remove this pocket clip, which we would have to do anyway in order to get to the scale for doing the die. I mean, theoretically, I've seen a couple of videos where someone did a die with a knife and they didn't even take it apart. They just threw the whole thing in the die. Is that it's basically water and dye that you're setting it in. You can get water all over a knife, clean it, wipe it down, polish it up, give it some oil, and it should be good to go. So putting it in that dye for a few minutes, as long as you clean it off, I guess, should be okay. But if you can do the take apart, the tear down, just a little bit easier to get to it, to get the pieces you want, to have a little more control and less stuff that's in the way, creating those potential situations that might be annoying or whatever. It looks like that screw is smaller. Okay. And then these, there we go, bing, bing. So I kind of have to pay attention. It looks like these two screws are the same, but that third one in the middle there is a smaller one. Got some oil up in there. Interesting design though. We don't really have to fully tear this down. I would say if there's going to be one issue that we have, it'll be when we put it back together. Generally when you take a knife apart, sometimes you have to pay attention, or you do have to pay attention for recentering the blade. And because we never loosened the pivot or did anything with that, I guess it's possible that we might have to loosen some stuff up and make some adjustments to make sure that that blade is nice and centered once we put it back. So that would be maybe the only thing we'll have to deal with. There are those shorter screws. All right, we have our two scales. The rest of this is good to go. I could consider doing a laser mark on that at some point maybe, but for now we're just doing a die project today. Die project number 59. These two scales right here. Let's get to the kitchen, get them all prepped up, wash them off, and do the die. Boom, and we are here. I've got them on these hooks, so that's easy to get them in and out. I've got the die all heated up. We'll get them in there, and we'll start talking about it here. First things first, you want to swish them around. Make sure that there are no little air bubbles. If there's any air pockets or anything on there, that's a spot where the die won't stick. And so if we want a nice even coat, you kind of want to swish them around, make sure none of those air bubbles are there. And now we're in. I'm using a RIT die. I have about 4 ounces of the die mixed with about 24 ounces of water. I'm heating it up on the stove. The heat is what activates it. You do not need it to be boiling. This is just about boiling. The hot is really what helps. You could even heat it up in the microwave and do it that way, but it does take a little bit longer if it's not quite as hot. Boiling is not necessary. I've seen some people boil it, got a rolling boil and have it in there. I've been doing it like this. This is my 58th Or is it 59th? I don't remember what I said. Dye, I've been doing so many of these, so I've learned, you don't really need the water to be boiling, but hot does help out a lot. Room temperature will work, but it could take 24 hours or more. Another thing is if you start off with jade versus white, this is jade G10, this is white G10. Both have the same red. If you notice, the white mixes with the red, kind of gives it a brighter red, and the jade mixes with the red and gives it a little bit more dull, kind of a maroon color. Whenever you do a dye, whatever color you start with is there. So it will always be there. It is going to mix with the dye that you use and is permanently going to be that new color. So if you want a bright red and you're using jade, you've got to remember you are going to end up a little bit more dull than as if it was white. So that is definitely something to think about. Let's take a little peek here. Sometimes it can go quite fast like this right here. I'm going to go ahead and put them in there. This water rinse instantly neutralizes the dye so you can see where you are. And look at that. We're already at a nice kind of a maroon. I think I'm going to go a little bit darker. So I'm going to get those back in there, make sure there's no air bubbles. Once they're wet, it's a lot easier. And I'm going to let them roll in there for a minute or two, and then we'll check on them. All right, let's see what's happening. These are darkening up fast. We are done. I'm going to turn the heat on the stove off. Move these out of the way. Kind of move this forward. As I was saying, when you move them out of the dye and put them into this bath of water, it neutralizes that dye and then basically stops it from doing any more. Dye is kind of thick, so it does kind of sit on there. So you want to get in there, rinse them off, wipe them off really good, make sure there's no dye kind of remaining on there. And then we'll take a couple of towels. Got kind of a partially dry. Move this up just a little bit. Try not to splash all over the place. All right, so here we are. Nice and maroon already. Fantastic. So now we can put it back together. I'm going to let these dry off completely, make sure there is no moisture on there, and then we will put it back together. I will see you back at the table. Boom, just like that, we're back home. We've got them all clean and ready to go. Let's put this thing back together. One of the easiest dye projects we've had in a while. Don't talk too soon, Kenman. It's not back together yet. We don't have any crazy pivots or any weird stuff that we got to deal with, so this should be pretty straightforward. Didn't even realize this at first when I originally was going to do this one, and then when I'm getting ready to do the tear down, I look and I was like, oh wow, look at this. We might not even have to take the knife completely apart. These are almost like inserts in a way, going over the top of the frame and the liners. No disassembly required. Johnny 5. Where did I grab one of the little screws? I did. Wasn't paying attention there. As I said, when we took it apart, there's some different size screws. Got to pay attention to those, Dan. All right. Big screw right there. Okay. Now we can do this side. Yeah, if you're looking at trying a dye project and you haven't done one yet, I mean, a full teardown of a knife isn't really that hard, so I wouldn't feel too overwhelmed by it. But if you are a little nervous about it, this one might be a great option to try out. Find a knife like this where you don't actually have to completely take it apart. Saves you a little bit of that effort. Realistically, if you pay attention and you have the tools when you put it back together, you shouldn't have any issues. Although you get yourself a button lock or something with a spring that has a little bit more like a clutch lock, And there is a little bit of a figuring out kind of a curve, making those work versus a nice simple liner lock such as this, especially when you don't even have to actually tear down that liner lock. Okay, so when you do put a knife, oh shoot, I screwed that up. There's your first error of the day. You guys figure out what I did wrong. All right, gotta take that off. I have to tighten this one completely. There we go. Because once that clip goes on there, we don't have access to that screw anymore. I forgot about that. Got a little carried away there. No worries. So, is this centering gonna be back how it's supposed to? We shall find out. Pocket clip screws, because they're so close, I like to go back and forth a few times. When you get one tight, it kind of relieves a little pressure on the other one sometimes. And when you have a screw that goes all the way through and they share a spacer, sometimes you got to go back and forth on both sides to make sure they're cinched down. There's that one. There we go. And we are set. Blade is still right in the center. Since we didn't touch any of this up on the bolster, we should be good to go. Boom, there it is. Complete die project number 59. Ooh, the next one's gonna be big 60, a little milestone in the die project world. All right, what do we think about the finished Kansept Warrior? Black and red. More maroon, but we knew that was going to happen when you have that jade. It's just naturally going to be a little bit darker. This is a dark, solid knife. Let me wipe that blade off. Got a little oil going on there. But we are complete. Oh, this looks fantastic. I love black and red. Any shade of red, whether it's maroon or lighter or brighter. But this is fantastic. I think this is a win. The Kansept Warrior is a great knife. Got some good action on it. Those thumb studs work pretty good, even though I fidget a little here. They do flick out, as you can see, quite easily. Really fun knife. D2 blade on this one with the steel and the G10. Oh, comment below. What do we think about this one? Fairly simple die project today. Straightforward. Should we go in and laser mark something on here maybe? Or just kind of leave it? I could do a pattern right on there that would match that color of that Kansept logo. But this is a clean looking knife just as is. I might just call it a day and enjoy it like this. Maybe someone will hit me up, want to pick it up. If you are interested in doing some projects, I can help guide you through it, give you some tips and stuff. You can message me, or if you'd rather just have me do it, get a hold of me. You can send it out and we can get it done for you. They are really fun. Die project 59 in the books, the Kansept Warrior. Stay sharp. I'll see you soon.